Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unbox Some Funcast. This is a part 2 of our discussion of calendar year 2025 here at Games Unlimited in Pittsburgh, PA. I am Chandra, one of your hosts, and I'm here as always with the owner of Games Unlimited, Kylie. How you doing today, Kylie?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited. We kind of have a little bit of a new podcast set up.
New microphones we're trying out, new software we're using. We're kind of upgrading all the way around.
Yeah, we're in the same room. I don't have to.
Yeah.
Our previous podcasts were all recorded in the same building.
Yeah.
But on different floors on our own computer.
Yep, because we just were trying to avoid all of the sound bleed that we were getting before with our setups. And it still didn't quite work. We weren't getting sound bleed from each other, but we were getting environmental sound bleed, and it seemed really inconsistent. Sometimes it was there, sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah. So if you're actually listening and hearing this part of the podcast and it didn't get cut, that means the sound works really well. Because if it still sounds like crap, I'm cutting this.
Yep.
Yeah, so as Chandra said, this is actually a two-parter. This is part 2 of our year in review 2025. So you should really go back and listen to the first one if you haven't. But
we went over a lot of the data, the hard numbers in the first part. And I think in the second part, we just we're going over vibes in a lot of ways.
Yeah. What did 2025 feel like? What did we learn, etc. So yeah, I think we should just jump right into it. We left off, I think, talking about both our special topic, which was Hot Streak, and talking about how we doubled the number of items that we sold 150 or more units of, just going deep on things. Like last year was the year that we really went deep. And I can tell you, I've already seen so far this year, I mean, this episode is being recorded in mid-February, which I don't know how it's already 6 weeks into 2026. It has felt both longer and shorter because I know we're supposed to be talking about 2025, but 2026 has been nuts.
Yeah, we have absolutely. So right after the holiday season, entering the new year, we tend to expect a little bit of a come down after the holiday season. Early January, right after the new year, things tend to slow down a bit. Once people have come in and spent their Christmas money or Hanukkah money or whatever.
That grandma money.
Yep, exactly. Or made their returns or whatever the situation is, that usually happens pretty fast. And then we get to settle back in, things slow down, and we do our restocks, our beginning of the year restocks, and a lot of the focus turns to that. This year so far, we have not had the lull at all. We've still been doing the restocks. We have to. We have to do that part, but there hasn't been the slowdown in business we usually count on to be able to get that stuff done.
No, and in fact, last episode we talked about 2025 was up almost 14% over 2024. I don't expect this to continue, but for the first 6 weeks of January, we are up nearly 25% over that same period in 2025.
And I'm pretty sure we mentioned this last episode, but I just want to put it here, sort of pin it to the top. We usually expect within a 10% range, either 5% up from the year before to 5% down from the year before. Obviously, we prefer the higher end of that, but anywhere in there we feel pretty comfortable with.
And we can plan for.
Like
more than that, things have gone awry is maybe the wrong word, especially when they're going up faster than you expect. But they're drastically different than what we expect and much more difficult to plan for.
Yeah, no one saw it coming. Not a single person on staff guessed at what we were going to see. And we're tired.
We're tired, yeah. And I'll point out that 25% so far over for the year, that includes 2 days that we were closed in January for snow.
Oh, yeah.
Fully closed for 2 days. And the 2 days after that, walk-in traffic was next to nothing.
And one of those days was a weekend day. It was a Sunday, which tend to be a little slower than Saturdays. but that is still a weekend
Mm-hmm.
day, which tends to, double or more a weekday.
Yeah, Sundays tend to be our second busiest day, and
Yep.
we were just, closed. But then we had a turnaround this past weekend. It was Valentine's weekend, which doesn't normally see much of a bump. And of course, we're comparing Valentine's weekend this year to Valentine's weekend last year, so it's the same comparison, but we did double.
Yeah.
Absolutely double Saturday, double Sunday, double Monday.
We did almost an entire week's worth of business in 2 days.
Yeah. Why? No idea.
Yep. We have guesses. We survey staff. What do you think accounts for it? But no one knows for sure. It's all just, I don't know. I guess this factor might get me out of the house, but
right. And when you can't figure out why, it's hard to predict whether it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
So coming back to, how this relates to our 2025 year in review, we talked about having, instead of 5 games that we sold more than 150 units of, we had 10 games last year. Well, what has been happening this year with the growth we've seen is that we bring in new releases most of the time. If I got a game that looks interesting, I haven't played it, I don't spend a ton of time researching because we just have so many new games to bring in. So this looks interesting enough. We're safe to bring in a case of 6, right? I'll often bring in more if I've done a little bit more research. It's a designer we know, publisher we know, we have some reason to suspect that, oh yeah, we should bring in 12, 18, something more than that. This is, just to get through the first week of having the game so that the early adopters can do it. And this year I found that even a game I know almost nothing about, ordered it because looked like a cool box art, might do interesting. Let's get 6 of them and see what it does. Those, we put out a newsletter on Thursday with the new releases in it. A lot of people come in on Friday, pick up stuff. That new game that we brought 6 in, it'll be gone by sometimes before Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, quite famously recently, especially if you follow our short videos on TikTok or YouTube or wherever, you probably saw that we got in a pretty hefty chunk of Magical Athlete.
Yep.
And also CMYK, same people that brought us Hot Streak. They're just killing it. But yeah, we brought in a nice chunk of Magical Athlete, and we were taking informal bets amongst ourselves, amongst some of our regular customers, some folks in our Discord. How long do you think these are going to last? Most folks were saying, we got them in Wednesday, I think, of that particular week.
Yep.
And most folks were saying, oh, that'll probably last you until midday Saturday. Maybe it'll last you to midday Sunday. It was all within that kind of range. Nope. Thursday, we came into the store in the morning and we had 1.
Yep. I was shocked. We had this big pile when I left for the day Wednesday.
Yep.
Like, okay, a bunch of Magical Athlete. I walk in Thursday morning. Where'd they go?
Yeah.
And so, one of the things this has made me think, okay, I need to go back and look at whatever I've got on pre-order, new releases, up those numbers. Because, one of the things that we don't want to do ever is disappoint people.
Right.
And so if something goes out in the newsletter on Thursday, this is putting my head into the mindset of the typical customer. They scroll through the newsletter. Oh, that game looks interesting. Maybe they want to do a little bit of research on it and watch some videos about it or something. And then think, maybe I'll come in over the weekend, ask them about the game, what they think of it, and pick it up. But if they come in on Saturday, like literally, we got the game in 2 days before and told them about it. They come in on Saturday and it's not here. They don't even have the opportunity. That creates disappointment.
Yeah.
It increases a sense of FOMO. Like, I don't want my customers to think, oh, I better order this now or it might be gone.
We're not a hard sell group of people. We want folks to feel like they can do their due diligence, make sure, hey, this thing is actually going to be a really good fit for my gaming group. And, it sucks for us to have to tell someone, sorry, that thing we told you was in yesterday. Yeah, it's already gone. We already sold through 8 copies.
It's one of the changes we need to make. It's
right.
Okay, ordering more of stuff. We try to be a little conservative. We don't want to hold on to too much stuff, have something that doesn't move, but stuff's going to move.
Well, and it encourages us to be more confident, I think,
Yes.
in our own decision making. And different stores are going to be way different on their capacity
Yes.
to do that. How much capital do you have? How much storage space do you have? All of these things. But I think if you really believe in a game, for whatever reason you have for believing in it, there's a reason you have that feeling, and within your means, I think we are definitely learning here to be more confident in our intuitions,
Yes.
and to really try to follow that and lean into it, because more often than not it works out, and when it doesn't, we learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of the lessons going into 2026. Just buying more initial stock, not being afraid to go deep. Like, if we see something, for example, just one of the games that just came in, little game called French Toast.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. And I'm like, okay, maybe we should order a bunch of this, because I think we want to still wait, maybe show it to some customers over the weekend, see what the initial response is. But if the response is good, don't hesitate. Let's order.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it's a small box game from All Play. We might go 48, we might go 60, we might go more.
Yeah.
And just know this is something we're going to show people and it's going to sell.
Well, and it hits one of our strengths. And again, this is going to come down to the idiosyncrasies of any given store. One of our strengths here, one of the advantages we have, is our demo bar.
Yeah.
And for our demo bar, what we showcase there, we really look for games that we can teach you in 2 to 5 minutes tops. We really want to be able to get in, get out with the rules explanation, and then actually be able to play a little bit with you so that you can really feel the game. And something like French Toast is perfect for that.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why we feel like we can lean into it, because we are going to, in part, create the audience for it, but also very organically, the right people are going to gravitate to it when we are up at the front of the store, out in the open, showing it off.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a lesson we learned in 2025. Don't be afraid to go deeper.
Yep.
What is the potential downside? We could get to the end of 2026 if we've gone too deep on too many things. I'm not worried too much. There's always going to be some things you go a little too deep on. And I think we might talk about that when we talk about our disappointments of the year. But that's okay. Having a couple of items that maybe we need to find some way to do something with isn't so bad. We don't want to get to the end of the year and say, oh, we've got 20 items that we have way more than we could even clearance if that were a thing we wanted to do.
Right.
So we'll keep tabs on it, and we'll check back in a year and see how that's gone.
Absolutely.
Another big thing, let's talk about basically the elephant in the room for everyone in retail in 2025 was tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going into Gamma, which was about a year ago now. There was not, after the fact, I definitely know some publishers were talking about, well, what ifs, but I know for me, the first time I was at an industry event where tariffs were all the talk was in April when I went to the Gathering of Friends.
Yeah.
And that was, so Gamma, the big ones hadn't been announced yet. And then just a month later.
They were announced in earlier mid-April. I forget exactly. Yeah. So that tracks.
And so what happened there, what was really interesting is having discussions with publishers. As a retailer, how is this going to affect us? As a publisher, how is it going to affect you? And I felt all along, I'm like, look, we are in the privileged position because we're not being asked to make potentially financially catastrophic decisions around this. Publishers were immediately like, oh, we don't know how these tariffs are going to be applied. We've got stuff ready to get on the boat in China. Are there going to be tariffs? Are the stuff that's already on the boat going to be tariffed? Publishers having to make decisions about, some publishers just left stuff at the ports, paid the storage fees at the ports to wait because the tariffs were so erratic. They were this, they were that. So they had a strategy of let's wait and see. Maybe it gets worse, maybe it gets better. But for us, how that trickled down to us was just all we really know. We don't have to make any decisions as far as doing print runs or anything, but is there going to be product for us to sell, right? What we were worried about is either things are going to go up in price so much that our customers aren't going to want to buy it, or there literally just won't be things for us to buy and stock on our shelves. And so in April, we had to ask ourselves this question of, leaning back on a strategy that worked for us in the past, coming out of really in the middle of the pandemic, there was a big holiday shortage looming in the holiday season of 2021, right? Because this was just the supply chain, all the ripple effects through the supply chain. And so we said, well, what do we do? And normally we stock up for the holidays. We start doing that around October, maybe. And in 2021, we were doing that early summer, just saying, let's buy as much as we possibly can, as much as we can afford to, that we know we're going to sell through the holidays, but we have to stock up now. And so what we did was say, do we do that again? Now, this was April. I literally didn't have the cash on hand to buy everything we would need to get through the rest of the year, nor would we have place to put it, nor would we have the right things potentially. So we had to really make some decisions about what to go deep on and what to bring in. And this is something, what would be the worst case scenario?
We went into it treating it essentially as prepping for the holidays, because that's the context you have as a retailer or that kind of thing. So we were looking through numbers, looking through how well certain things were selling, and figuring out during December, we usually do essentially X number of regular months worth of business. So let's look at what we need to supply that number of months worth of stuff.
But then the difference was, compared to, say, 2021, was we got those numbers in, but we didn't let them deplete.
Right.
We continued weekly. If we sold X copies of this game, even though we've got tons upstairs in the warehouse, we're going to buy X copies again to keep that supply there because things may run out at some point.
Make sure we always have product in the chamber, ready to go at need.
So publishers, obviously, they had to be making decisions about whether to bring stuff in. But another decision they had to make was whether to raise prices to account for tariffs. And this is where there were a lot of different options and thoughts going through people's heads, and a lot of discussion in various forums that I was in. People were talking about, well, if the tariffs are basically added as the landed cost of an item. So one of the things we often think about is the landed cost of something. It's not just the cost to manufacture it, it's the cost to get it shipped over here, to get it to your, in the case of us, US-based warehouse, to get it into stores' hands, to get it into customers' hands. What is that landed cost? And that landed cost is what the MSRP is based on. And it usually involves, they're going to sell it for approximately double, maybe a little bit less, to a distributor who's going to sell it for a little bit more than that to a retailer who's going to usually sell that for double what they paid for it. That's kind of how the chain works. But, if the tariffs are adding $1, $2 to the landed cost of an item, by the time that goes through the chain, that's like a $10 increase on MSRP. And a lot of us were talking about like, that's too much. Is there a way we can not try to make money off of the tariff cost, just pass it through, right? So the publisher's got to pay an extra $2 to get the game into the country. They just charge an extra $2, but then the distributor doesn't double that and the retailer doesn't double that. We're just kind of passing that on. And you did see this in some retail places. I even know some retail stores that would literally show, hey, this costs an extra $2 because of tariffs. We had some of our distributors actually still doing that. They're adding a particular percentage to certain publishers as the tariff fee to basically give us the option of doing what we want with that information. So these discussions were going around, but we didn't really see wholesale adoption of them. One of the things we were fearing was, what is the industry-wide way we're going to deal with this? I was very worried about just MSRP increases. And the first company I saw actually do that was Van Ryder.
Yeah.
Van Ryder raised the MSRP on Final Girl from, I think beforehand it was $20 up to 30, like a major price increase. And when I saw that, not in any way throwing any shade on Van Ryder. I love Van Ryder. They're a great company, great to work with. But I saw that and I was like, is this going to be the first domino that falls? Now that someone's done it, is everyone going to raise? I mean, in this case, that was a 50% increase on MSRP. Now, part of that was Final Girl hadn't gone up in MSRP ever, so they needed just general costs gone up, plus with the tariffs. So that's kind of what kept me up at night in the immediate aftermath. But we didn't see other publishers following suit.
No, and Van Ryder actually, they quietly pulled back on that a little bit once they saw what the reality was.
Which was very hard to determine
Yes.
because, again, these tariffs were up and down and they were on and off.
So a Final Girl box went from, $20 to $30 and then back down to 25.
Right.
And that actually happened pretty quickly. They were very responsive about that, and I give them credit for pulling back as quickly as they did. Because I think there are a lot of companies out there and a lot of industries that I think would have been perfectly happy to keep it at the $30 and just hope that enough people paid that to make them, a nice extra 25% profit, essentially.
Right. And part of their decision, which they were very public about, and was a strategy we adopted, maybe less publicly, but we thought that made a lot of sense, was they were raising the prices as they were getting new stuff in that had tariffs attached. They were raising the prices even on the older stuff that they already had in the warehouse because in their mind, we didn't pay more for that older stuff, but we're going to have to pay more to replace it. So better to do this now. And I do think almost universally, everyone in the industry, to your point, Chandra, was saying, we want this to be temporary. We are not going to plan to raise these prices and then never let them come down if we can help it.
Yeah.
And we did a similar, once we started seeing, hey, prices for some of the products we sell are going up, we're going to raise the price on that product now because we need that extra money to be able to replace it when we need to replace it.
Asmodee is an interesting case where they've actually been reducing the prices as they do new editions of their evergreens. So, for example, Ticket to Ride went from, I think, 55 to 50, or maybe it was 60 down to 55, something like that. It was definitely about a $5 drop in the new version of Ticket to Ride with no noticeable loss of physical quality.
Correct. Although, it's funny you should bring up Asmodee. They were actually the one company, and you have to understand, if you're not part of the games retail side of the industry at the moment, Asmodee acts more like a distributor now. I mean, we think of Asmodee as a publisher, but they have a lot of companies under their umbrella, and they distribute a lot of things. So we talk about Asmodee mostly as a distributor, not as like, oh, this is a publishing company. But they did price increases across the board, pretty much. It was like, I don't remember what the percentage was, but it created a little bit of consternation for us because they were like, on this date, basically the prices on everything, and they have a lot of products they distribute. Prices on everything are going up. Okay, I understand that and makes sense. But Asmodee also has a MAP, a minimum advertised price policy, which is something we never have to worry about because we sell everything at MSRP. So we don't have to worry about running afoul because we're selling something lower than they say that we're allowed to advertise it at. But some of their products, their MAP is MSRP, usually their new releases. And with the price of everything going up all at once across the board, I mean, this was a project that took us better part of a week to raise everything in our system, to go reprice everything, physically in the store. We could inadvertently be violating maps. Like, oh, the price for this thing went up. We haven't changed it yet.
Because we haven't restocked on it. Usually when we restock on a product is when we double check what we paid for it, if the MSRP changed, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that was just a logistical hurdle
Yep.
we had to deal with. It wasn't that we minded that Asmodee raised their prices. I mean, it was part of what everyone was trying to figure out at the time.
Yep.
Now, how would you say it all ended up, Chandra?
Well, given the numbers that we have seen, as we've been talking about earlier today and in our previous recording, it seems to have turned out a-okay for us, at least for the time being. That said, in the news right now, there's a lot of talk in the business news that a lot of companies, manufacturers, distributors, people like that, have been, to a large extent, trying to pass on as little of the tariff costs as they can manage, in the hopes that a lot of it would be temporary and would fall away and things could, to some extent, normalize. But as a lot of this stuff just keeps dragging on, and there's so much uncertainty around it, they are starting to pass on more and more, because, like it or not, they have to.
Yeah.
They can't eat an extra cost forever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good point. I know a lot of companies who said, we're gonna eat that cost because, and they project how long can we go and how long do we anticipate this is going to happen? Can we just hold the line long enough? And again, we're still in a situation where, are these going to be sustained? Is the Supreme Court going to overrule? Is that? We don't know. So we may be right back where we were last year in a certain extent of like, what's the rest of this year going to look like? Are prices still going to go up? We're just not sure.
Yeah.
But at least we know how we've navigated it for a little while and can try to use some of those, what we've learned from that, to continue to move forward. I think for us, again, going deep, publishers being very upfront with us about if and when prices are going to go up. There have been some casualties. I know one of the things, again, this is not me criticizing publishers' decisions because they need to do what's best for them. But like we cannot, for the foreseeable future, carry Gloomhaven or Frosthaven.
Yep.
Because that's a big, heavy game. The cost of tariffs has basically meant that Cephalofair Games has not raised the MSRP, but they cannot afford to wholesale it at our normal margin.
Right.
And so that, understandable, just means we can't carry that particular game.
Right.
For the time being.
These are a lot of the choices that publishers, distributors, and retailers are having to make. You know, this industry, I have to say, does a lot more fair dealing than a lot of other industries out there. There's a lot more transparency, a lot more just, hey, sorry guys, this is where things are at, between the different layers of the industry.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we like to get together. We like to play games with each other. We're friends.
Yeah.
But we also recognize we're all businesses, and what we need to make sure we're doing is making business decisions that work for all parties, And if it doesn't work for all parties, it's no hard feelings. That's the way things are now. And it's not like, listen, the moment I can get Gloomhaven or Frosthaven again at a normal margin, yeah, I'm going to get it.
Absolutely, yeah. No one is mad at Cephalofair over this. It's just the way things are.
It's just the way things are.
Oh.
So yeah, that's where we are with tariffs. Another big thing for the year, and we talked about this a little bit in the last episode, was our online growth. 91.41% growth in our online, by which I mean literally shipping sales, our e-commerce platform.
Yeah.
And this is the result of a conscious decision a couple of years ago. It's now paying out dividends, which was this idea that, hey, I bet there's a market of people out there who don't have a friendly local game store that they want to support, want to shop at for whatever reason. But they also don't want to buy on the big box stores. They don't want to buy on Amazon. They recognize some of the harms that this type of capitalism does. So they would be willing, if they had a store, even if it's not local to them, they'd be willing to pay full price. They'd be willing to pay shipping. They'd be willing to wait, and not get it the next day or same day. I said, I bet those people are out there. And if we can just show them who we are, who Games Unlimited is, they will buy from us.
We also try our best to offer these folks as close to the same level of service and integrity that we do to our locals or to people who make the drive in
Mhm.
to physically see us. You know, if you're trying to figure out what game or games would work really well for you and your family or your group of friends, you can shoot us an email.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it's not as great as being in the store and us being able to walk you around and show you things one by one or, grab you and haul you over to the demo bar, but at least it is a way for us to answer questions, to hear you out, and to try to match you up with what's really going to work for you.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that has been a big part of that growth also because people, yeah, on the negative side, they may not want to support Amazon or Target or whomever. But on the positive side, maybe they also just recognize that there's a real benefit, a real value
Mhm.
add to sound corporate to having someone that you can reach out to personally, hear back from a person rather than an AI chat bot or just reading a bunch of reviews.
Yeah, it's a thing that I've personally been noticing, and this was probably an impetus for me to think that this is the way other people might think. Look, I understand wanting to get things as cheaply as possible, but I also notice when I go into establishments, I'll give an example, the shoe store down the street. I've been shopping at that shoe store now for years
Likewise.
because it's called Little Shoes in Pittsburgh. And give them a
Yep.
plug.
Shout out.
Been there for a lot of years. But yeah, I could go into the discount shoe store. I've been to the discount shoe stores and then just try things on, and then they got to go get the other half of the pair out in the back because they only keep one out because they've got shoplifting and they've got all these other issues. But Littles, I can go in and someone talks to me, say, "Hey, what kind of shoes are you wearing?" They find different shoes. They give me recommendations. I try stuff on. They're friendly. They're helpful. They know their stuff. And yeah, I know I'm going to probably not get out of there with a pair of shoes that cost less than $120. But that's okay because I'm paying not just for a good product, but for feeling good about the experience. I'm not feeling like, oh, I might have just got something knockoff or counterfeit or something that's going to fall apart. I've got a connection there.
Right. And they are at least as full service as we are. Probably more because I'm not touching anyone's feet during my workday.
Hey, that's a challenge. Publishers, make a game that involves touching other people's feet.
I will not carry that game, but go ahead and make it anyway. But yeah, this is that old fashioned shoe store experience where you walk in and say, "Hey, I need an all day on my feet work shoe. I need a hiking boot. I need a tennis shoe, whatever it is, and I need it to fulfill these functions."
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "All right, gotcha. Here are 3 or 4 options for you. Sit down. I am going to take your shoes off. I am going to size you, and I am going to slip all of those on one by one so that you can get a feel for them. And I'm going to talk you through, hey, this one's going to be better for this thing that you wanted. This other one is going to be better for this other thing. So know what you're getting."
Yeah. Yeah. So for us, it's, if there are people out there who recognize the value of that,
Mhm.
and there are obviously people in Pittsburgh who recognize that and come to our store, and there are people who travel from sometimes hours away. If we just show that, it's going to grow. People are going to see us, and some people are going to order from us. The negative voice in people's head could always say, "Oh, well, you're doing all this social media," and then they're probably going to say, "Oh, I want that game," and they'll go order it from Amazon or something. And I'm sure that happens. And frankly, I don't care because one, our ultimate goal is to match people with games. If people are getting games, not from us, they're still getting games.
Yeah.
And that makes us happy.
It's a non-linear value proposition for us, which is also true of running our weekly demos and all sorts of other things that we do at the store. We may not see an immediate one-to-one return on it, But over time, we can watch how all of these efforts build on each other and, not just sustain, but increase our customer base.
Yeah. And the real fun thing for me with the online sales is seeing the repeat customers, being able to, even though we don't know these people, we like to write little notes on the
Yep.
packing slip. I got an email from someone, a very heartfelt email, that had ordered the Fellowship of the Ring trick taking game. We
Mm.
had the promo. I threw the promo in, wrote a little note. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, just telling them how excited I am for the game and that I think they would love it. And that person wrote me an email with a picture of like the packing slip that I had written on in the promo, and just said, not only thank you for putting the promo in, but telling me that his father, who had instilled the love of Tolkien into him, had passed away that year. And this game was going to be a way for him to like share the love of Tolkien with his daughter, and just, stuff like that. Those personal stories that we do get all the time in person
Yep.
are also available doing this e-com thing, when again, we're not just a big company trying to shovel stuff out as cheaply and as quickly as possible. We want to make those personal connections with
Right.
people.
If I could build a series of Futurama style transportation tubes and get all of you physically into the store, that would be ideal. But there are other ways for us to have personal relationships with people. And, this, I think, in a lot of ways moves us into our surprises of the year,
Mm,
because that incredible growth in online sales and the very real connections that we've been able to make through that have been one of the huge positive surprises that we got out of 2025.
100%.
So, what are some other surprises for you? Some real standouts?
Oh gosh, I'm looking over a list of some of the stuff we put down there. You know what? I'm going to start with Moon Colony Bloodbath.
Oh, yeah.
This was a game, I remember seeing it announced. It's by Donald Vaccarino, who did Dominion. May have even talked about it as one of the games we've been playing last year. But what surprised me about this game, it's coming out from Rio Grande Game. The artwork is very retro future. And I recall when it came in, Dan, the other manager, thought this was a game that I had bought on clearance. Because sometimes we buy clearance games to have more stuff to pad our mystery games, our gift app mystery games at the end of the year. Because we only got a few. I was like, nope, this is a game that people have been asking about. It's by Donald Vaccarino. And I think the few copies we got in sold that first weekend. I didn't even play a game of it. But then I did get a chance to play it at the Gathering of Friends in April. I was like, this is cool. This is unique. This is doing something different. And so the surprise is just more how much we've all loved that game, how much it has sold. And just for, again, a game that came into the store with someone thinking this was a piece of crap clearance game.
Yeah. Purely on appearances, yeah. The big surprise for me with that one is how much people of very disparate tastes enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It appeals to a lot of heavy gamers because it has a lot of Euro gaminess, especially in sort of the beginning or first half of the game, so to speak. But it also appeals to people who like more chaos in their games. It hits this really interesting dynamic between those two.
Deck building is such a venerable genre, and we do see people do interesting things with it every once in a while. Actually, the Mistborn deck building game, I don't have this on the list, but John D. Clare made a couple of like interesting incremental improvements to the genre. But to see Vaccarino, who created the genre, be able to come out and do something that I think we will see more like this, the way that it's like a group deck build thing, I applaud for that. So that was one of my surprises.
Yep.
Any surprises for you, Chandra?
A big one for me personally was Enthrone. Enthrone is a phenomenal 2-player abstract. And the surprise to me was that out of the gate, it looks a bit overproduced. The minis are way more detailed than you would expect for what amounts to a like 10 to 15 minute abstract 2-player game. Um, and the cover art, we make a lot of cracks about the cover art in the store. It looks to me, for all the world, like a mid 90s, 2.5D first person shooter game for the PC. Like, it looks like Heretic or Hexen. Um, but gameplay wise, it is amazing. It's really unique, I think. It combines the abstract strategy thing of sort of a linear march to a particular goal, capturing someone's king or getting across the board or whatever it is that you see in those kinds of games a lot. But it also brings in deductive reasoning where you actually do not know which piece on the board your opponent is playing as at the start of the game. And at no point do they reveal it. You just watch their moves because you can move just about any piece on the board on your turn. So you just watch someone's moves and try to suss out who
Mm.
they might be and what their objective is based on that. And so it still plays really fast. It's an incredibly easy teach, but the depth and replayability on this game, has really not let go since my first play.
The other thing that we haven't talked about yet is that we won GAMA, which is the trade organization for the tabletop games industry. They have Power Retailer Awards every year, and we won not one but two of those awards, one of which was for Innovator of the Year
Mhm.
because of our social media. And then we won Retailer of the Year, best game retailer worldwide of the year. And that was an incredible honor that was not expected.
And there really were some amazing contenders.
Oh, yeah.
We were not up against just some random little shops. We were up against some truly great, unique game stores that bring really amazing things to their communities and serve as examples for the rest of us of how we can improve.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to say, I love amazing game stores.
Yeah.
I am not threatened by
No,
amazing game stores. I want to know what they do and how can I use some of what they do in our store and
we're
vice versa.
we're lucky enough to have several in the Pittsburgh area, and heck, we're all happy to point you to them because they all do something different from what we do, and they do it incredibly well.
Yeah.
And that's really what we need because there's so many different kinds of games, so many different kinds of gamers.
Yes.
Uh, you know, all of y'all deserve a place to be. And a lot of these stores, they help us to innovate really in our own space.
Yeah. 100%. So that happened in March that we got the award. What happened
Yep.
in June?
In June, well, heck, there's Pride Month, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
And Pride Month means a lot to us at Games Unlimited. Everyone for their own personal reasons. But it is something that we support every year to the best of our ability. And we had a pretty explosive Pride Month donation this year. We usually find some way to encourage our customers to help us raise money. In the past, we've done like a weekend where, anything you buy during that weekend, a certain percentage of it goes to a local LGBTQ charity of some sort. This year it was to Proud Haven,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Yes.
And we worked with Tabletop Gamers, GAY in there. Uh, they put out some amazing buttons and pins, enamel pin badges, to basically help stores to run their Pride event, whatever shape that took. And for us, it was straight up, hey, everyone, why don't you buy one of these pins? Why don't you buy one of these buttons? And that money is going to go to Proudhaven. Proudhaven is a great place here that helps out LGBTQ youth, especially ones who are dealing with underprivileged situations, with abuse, being kicked out of their houses, or otherwise finding themselves, homeless or without resources. It was really a great moment for us to be able to do that. And our customers
Yeah.
stepped up in such a huge way. It
Yeah,
was
'cause
amazing to see.
it wasn't just that we were donating, the money they spent on these pins and badges. We were going to match that. We
Yes.
said
Yes.
whatever, however much, and we set a limit.
Yeah.
We said, look, we'll match up to $1,000, not expecting, because in previous years, we've given $600 or so based on the percentage that we do for the weekend. But this one was like all month long, buy these pins, buy these badges, and we will match it. And yeah, we hit that limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our customers purchased $1,000 worth of pins and badges because they were also allowed to donate more, right?
Yes.
It's like we had all the pins and badges were suggested donations.
Correct.
So some people, maybe took them for next to nothing. Other people like, here's $100.
Yeah.
Give me $100 for the pin. And so between the 1,000 that customers spent, the 1,000 that we matched, we were able to give over $2,000 to the organization.
And it was genuinely incredible how many people gave more than the suggested donation for one of those pins. I was blown away, truly. Again, it's something that's very close to all of our hearts here. And I think every store should find something like that that is important to you as people and make that part of your business somehow. Because it, if nothing else, it will truly warm your heart. Like it really does give you a sense of mission, that to know that your community that you are helping to build by the existence of your store and by what you do day in and day out, you're really cultivating this great community of people who genuinely care. It reminds you that humanity actually does have some good,
reminder we all need sometimes.
There's a lot of harsh news, and this is a way for everyone in your community to participate and feel a little better about being a person.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great thing. We're getting close to the end of time, but a couple of, just to not to focus on the negative, but disappointments over the year, things that maybe didn't turn out as well as we'd hoped.
And these are also surprises to us. These are things that we expected to go otherwise, and so lesson learned.
Yeah. For me, I'll start. I've already talked about how much of a Tolkien fan I am, and I was super excited when I heard the announcement that we were basically getting a Lord of the Rings pandemic. This game, it's almost a coming full circle. I listened to interviews with Matt Leacock, who designed the game. He designed Pandemic. He designed Pandemic because he had played Reiner Knizia's Lord of the Rings game, which was really, people think of Pandemic, and it's true, Pandemic put cooperative games on the map, but 10 years prior to Pandemic, when the Lord of the Rings cooperative board game came out, it broke ground. People did not know what to do with a cooperative game. And Matt Leacock played the heck out of that, and then designed his own cooperative game, which really blew the doors off the genre, and to then get to turn around and take that and put Lord of the Rings theme on it. So I was super excited about it. Tariffs ended up causing the game to be delayed quite a bit. There was a price increase on it before it came out, but it was delayed. There were some quality control issues that delayed it a little bit further. I mean, these are all things that happen, not a big deal. And I think the disappointment for me was not in the game. The game is incredible. We demoed it. We had it out in the display case. People loved it. But it was one of those things that the demand far exceeded the supply. And we sold out of it within probably a month and a half.
Yep.
And despite our own love of the game, what's frustrating for us as retailers who love this hobby is when we're excited about something, we want to tell you about it, but we don't want to disappoint you. So we're not going to tell you how excited we are for a game that you can't buy.
Right. Yep.
So it was a disappointment for me just that we had to dampen that enthusiasm. Game's gone. Don't know when it's coming back. Hopefully it will come back and we'll be excited for it again then. But we just had to kind of say, that was awesome, but we got to move on.
Similarly, Yazeba's Bed and
Oh,
Breakfast, an indie RPG that we fell in love with from the moment we saw it at a Gamma event a
yeah.
couple years ago. The designers and publishers at the time were just sitting around in a bar and showing the game off, and we got to take a look at the beautiful deluxe edition before it came out. Got excited about it, and we're consistently selling that deluxe edition for as long as we could get it, and then poof. We wanted 2025 to be a big year for that game.
Because it was your game of the
It
year.
was my RPG pick of the year for 2024. And so I really wanted to be able to shove it in people's faces and say, you need this. If you're into RPGs, you need this. Even if you never run it, you need to read this. You need to learn from its philosophy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the game in physical form, anyway,
Yeah.
appears to just be gone. It changed publisher, I believe.
I believe what's happened is it changed publisher. Steve Jackson is going to be publishing it moving forward, and I don't know what kind of it's clearly not just a straight, well, hit the button and print it again.
Yeah.
They're making changes, they're doing something, and
Yep.
that process takes a while.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is unfortunate because that's another one so excited about.
Yeah, I really want that back. I really want to be able to show that to people. And I feel like it could have done gangbusters through the year 2025. And I hope it comes back soon. I really do, because I think no matter when it returns, it will do gangbusters
Yeah.
because it's a beautiful physical product, really well put together. And I hope Steve Jackson does that justice. Just a beautiful game, a beautiful world and setting and design philosophy. It's refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, enough disappointments. Enough of 2025. It's in the bag. It's in the books.
Yep.
We won't be repeating it. Well, hopefully we'll repeat the good parts of it.
Right.
And we'll see what 2026 has to hold. So, as always, though, let's end off on something we've been playing. What have you been playing recently, Chandra? Did you pick up Liminal Horror?
Liminal Horror, yeah. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I'm going to get there. It is a hack of Cairn, which is another big favorite of mine. That was my RPG of the year for 2025. If you want to get folks into a fantasy RPG, if you want to run a fantasy RPG and feel renewed and refreshed and not exhausted by it, check out Cairn. But Liminal Horror is a modern horror hack of Cairn. Basically the same streamlined mechanics, basically the same pickup and playability in a lot of ways, but a very dark, gross, moody take on modern horror. If you dig on John Carpenter movies, if you dig on body horror, if you dig on unsettling liminal spaces, if you dig on analog horror kind of stuff, Liminal Horror is a game to check out, and it is incredibly well supported, both first party and second party, I suppose you'd call it. Liminal Grimoire is a good place to start. Also comes with a sampling of the rules themselves, a bunch of adventures in pamphlet form, and solo rules.
I do love me some solo RPGs.
Yep. I'll let you borrow it.
Oh, cool. For myself, last night I got a chance to play again a game called Etherstone. I've been really loving this one. I don't know if it's going to be an underrated game for the year or not. We'll maybe run a demo of it. I want to push it more. But it caught my eye because the designers are designers who typically do bigger, heavier Euro games. Simone Luciani, and I forget the co-designer's name. But when I see those names, I think, oh yeah, medium to medium heavyweight Euro, which I don't play as much of those anymore. But this is a card game that at least initially looked like, okay, some sort of maybe Magic the Gathering style, not collectible, but like that kind of card play back and forth. But it's actually, once I sat down and played the game, what it reminds me of is Race for the Galaxy.
Interesting.
One of my all-time favorite games. It reminds me of that because it is a game that has multiple ways to trigger the end game. and depending on your strategy, you might push for one. Like you want to end the game on your terms before your opponent can get their engine going and get more points than you. But unlike Race for the Galaxy, it has a draft at the beginning of the game. So this type of card game that really is you're drafting cards, trying to make a 7-card hand that's going to give you lots of good combos, just like Race for the Galaxy. Oh, when I do this, I get bonuses for doing this, that, and the other. But and this is going to make it sound less appealing. It's not a game where you're going to be able to like draft a perfect hand with an amazing combo in it. But no one's going to be able to do that. So it's really doing the best with what you can. And every game of it I've played, I've had a plan when I drafted. And then once the game started, my plan shifted dramatically to doing something else. But it's quick. I mean, the games are 30 minutes tops. And there's just a lot of really cool, interesting decisions in the game. And the artwork's phenomenal. So I definitely would love to get more people to check out Etherstone. And, my kids got a 3D printer for Christmas. And so this was my first opportunity. I made a 3D printed insert for the game. That's pretty nice.
You've been all about that. You've been filling up a lot of boxes with 3D printed inserts and accessories and things like that lately.
It's so nice. I mean, I really do feel like 2025, particularly the holiday, was the year that I know a lot of families that got 3D printers.
Did your kids get the 3D printer for Christmas? You keep saying your kids got it for Christmas.
Trust me, if you saw how many 3D printed tchotchkes are in our house now, it's definitely the kids. It wasn't something I was actually interested in, but we have the device now, and just it's interesting. I hadn't noticed when you go to Board Game Geek and you're looking at forums and someone's like, oh, here's an insert. I'd never cared. But I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's functional. It does things. Once you have a 3D printer, I mean, most of these things, they take a few hours of time, but I mean, the cost in filament's like $2.
Right.
So it's like, why not? So, well, I think that's going to do it for us. What's coming up next for the Unbox Some Fun cast, Chandra?
Oh boy. Well, we are getting ready for this year's Gamma Expo right now. That's been taking up a lot of our bandwidth. And we want to share some of that experience with you all. So that's what's coming up next. We want to give you a bit of the inside of Gamma Expo from our perspective.
Yeah, so I think when we leave a little more than a week, and we'll be there for 5 days. But I think the plan is we're going to record a little bit of podcast every day. Maybe even get some of our other staff that's going with us. I know our manager, Dan, will be there with us. Just, quick hits. What did we see? What did we do? What was cool?
Yep.
And then we'll stitch that together.
You'll be getting our Expo Frankenstein.
Expo Frankenstein. I like that. It's a good name for the next one. All right. Well, until then, this has been the Unbox Some Funcast, a podcast about being on the front line of the games industry. I'm your host, Kylie.
And I am Chandra.
And we will talk to you soon. Go unbox some fun.
Also roll some dice.